I am talking to Mitch Vieira, the Rockport Town Administrator. Mitch, you just finished up recently with our first outdoor town meeting. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, that was quite an experience for us. In lieu of having one in April like we normally would, we had to certainly postpone that because of the pandemic. And it was decided amongst the Board of Selectmen, the town moderator, and the town clerk that we needed to forge ahead and have one so that primarily we had a budget in place for the schools to start their year off with. We had been operating on a 1/12 budget, which was certainly restrictive. So this would allow them to function and to allow town government in general to operate closer to normal. So we had a Saturday morning town meeting, which that's pretty normal, except it was outside. That was our new experience. And overall, I think it went very, very well. We had a tremendous amount of staff on hand. We had probably close to 25 town employees present to make sure things went smoothly. Everyone who came was very cooperative and helpful. We had some social distancing requirements in place with seating. We had hand washing requirements for people to come in. Everyone was appreciative of that and followed the process we had. And the meeting was done in under 2 hours, which for a Saturday town meeting, we're usually there for 5 to 6 at least. But we got through the business. The moderator moved things quickly, and it was a very successful day. Really great teamwork, and very appreciative to the voters who came and made it happen, made it successful.
So you passed the budget, and what other pieces of legislation got decided that day?
So we had a lot of our regular financial items in addition to the budget. We made our deposits into our stabilization accounts, so our large-scale savings accounts that we have. We approved as a community the recommended capital projects. So certainly every year we go forward with capital projects in addition to our operating budget. So a new police cruiser, renovations to the handicap lift at the school, and a variety of other projects, a DPW vehicle, things of that nature. So we got our capital projects done, which is good. We were able to get that moving. Included in the capital projects was some money towards our roadway projects and master roadway improvements, so that the town can continue to make some efforts in bettering our streets and sidewalks. It was a very scaled down meeting. Normally we would have quite a bit going on. At the beginning of the meeting, the moderator had a motion to postpone the petition articles. He had spoken with the majority of the folks on that. So those will take place now at the first meeting following the cessation of the state of emergency. So we'll come back to those. Basically, they're just frozen in place. The selectmen will place them all back on once the state of emergency closes, based on that vote by the body.
So moving right on, we now have fall town meeting on its way, yes. Right? But this will not occur before the cessation of the state of emergency, we assume, right?
Correct. So fall town meeting is normally a Monday evening, but again, with the pandemic, it will now be Saturday, September 26th at 8 a.m. We certainly don't expect there to be any change with the governor's emergency order before then. So we're planning on following the exact same procedure. It'll be outside. Folks will have the opportunity to sit in the chairs that are set out. They'll have the opportunity to bring their own chairs and sit in these pre-designated circles in the high school field, which was very, very popular. And they'll have the opportunity to sit in their cars in the parking lot. We broadcast it out on a radio channel. We have our sound vendor come in, and that worked really well. That was the first time we had ever done anything like that, and that was very well received. So Saturday the 26th, it'll be another abbreviated warrant. So it'll primarily be to handle any budget transfers that we need for our operating budget, and primarily focused on our community preservation projects. So there are 9 community preservation projects that are making their way forward. The CPC committee voted those out just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they're now on the warrant. So that's usually the focus for the fall, and that'll remain so on the 26th.
Great. Let's move to the election, which we are right in the middle of right now. This is, like everything else, an unprecedented election. It's a state primary, but it's never been run like this. Do you want to talk about how it's going?
Sure. All in all, it's going very well. It's certainly a big change, a very big change. And I want to give kudos to the town clerk's office, Pat Brown and Melanie Waddell, and all of our poll workers. They have been just going nonstop, absolutely nonstop. We've got all of the mail-in ballots coming in, which at last count were over 2,500, which is a big deal. That's a lot of mail-in ballots. So they've done an excellent job managing that process. Requests come in and they go right back out the door. I'm not sure how they make it work with 2 folks, but they've done a wonderful job of keeping up. And now we're in the midst of early in-person voting, which is available at Town Hall until Friday the 28th. You can enter through the handicap ramp. There's a booth set up. You can check in and vote in person that way. There's approximately 170 people who've taken advantage of that to date. And then, of course, we've got the primary itself on September 1st, Tuesday, September 1st. So the polls will be open, normal hours, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. All 3 precincts will be open as usual. And we'll have all the safeguards in place that we had for the annual election in June. So people will come in, there'll be physical distancing. We'll have public works staff on hand to sanitize the booth after each person uses it. And we'll certainly have our plexiglass safeguards up for the election workers. So certainly many opportunities, whatever way someone feels comfortable voting this time, they have every opportunity and every option available to them going forward. And another important piece, those who have the mail-in ballots, if they prefer to not mail them back, we do have a drop box at the rear door of Town Hall that's available 24 hours a day. It's a secure box. It's checked multiple times during the day by our clerk and treasury staff who manage that. And that's just another added layer. If people aren't comfortable mailing it back, they're more than welcome to drop it off here, and it gets right into the hands of the clerks.
I was in the early voting section yesterday, and I was talking to Melanie, and she was indeed saying that she sees ballots in her sleep now, and she was talking about how hard they've been working, and it's really clear. Could you just say how many mail-in or absentee ballots might be sent out in a previous year?
I think in a previous year, a rough guess would be a couple hundred is pretty normal. Maybe not even that much on a quiet election. This has certainly surpassed anything that has ever been experienced. And the clerks have also indicated to me we've never had more registered voters. So there are approximately now 5,900 registered voters in a population of approximately 7,000. That's higher than it's ever been, according to Pat and Melanie in the clerk's office. So certainly active interest.
That's great. And they also pointed out to me how hard you've been working. They were saying, pointing out all the pieces that were in place to keep that voting space incredibly safe. Do you want to talk about what you've done there, Mitch?
Sure. I'm happy to have been able to contribute as part of the bigger team for managing all of this. And my focus throughout the pandemic as the incident commander has been making sure we have the resources available. And that same has applied for our election. So working with the clerk's office and public works and Board of Health and police, we've made sure we've had all the resources available. So we've got our plexiglass shields available. We've got plenty of sanitizer for people who are coming in. We're cleaning all of the voting booths very regularly. So certainly we're all making sure that we're doing what we can to keep it as safe as possible for everybody. And
I was struck by the ventilation system you have. It's not exactly a fan, but and they were stressing how important it was to keep air moving, and we've been hearing about that in, with schools and any sort of public buildings. But right in that little space, you have this great little ventilation system, so people don't feel as if they're, the air is staying there.
Yes, we've been very diligent about, in this case for early voting and at the actual polls. We went out and purchased some large fans just to move the air. And then in addition to that, we have several UV air purifiers
Yes.
that we've positioned there. So we made sure right in front of the check-in table downstairs, and the same will be the case at the polls next week. We've got UV light purifiers, so the same type of technology that the hospitals are using on a certainly smaller scale for us, but any little thing we can do to make it safer. And then in addition to that, we have Public Works going through at certain times with the electrostatic sanitizer, which fogs not only the surfaces, but fogs the air as well. So every possible box we can check, that's what we're trying to do.
Well, thank you so much. Anything else you want to add to our conversation, either about town meeting or the elections?
So I would just encourage folks to make sure that you mark your calendars for the 26th, September 26th, 8 a.m. for town meeting. And again, if you're not comfortable at this point sitting on the field, either in the chairs provided or bringing your own, I really do want to stress to folks that we have the car option available. The only contact that you'd have with anybody would be to get your voter's booklet through the window. Otherwise, it's completely contactless, and you can sit in the comfort of your vehicle. So I want to just be sure that people know that's an option. It worked very well last time, and we had plenty of space available in the school parking lot for it. And for those who haven't voted early or haven't voted through the mail, September 1st, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. is the primary. And we'd encourage folks to use one of those options to vote, but certainly to exercise their rights to do so.
And it sounds as if so many people have voted by mail-in and early that it shouldn't be too congested that day, right?
Yes, we're expecting that it'll be quieter based on the volume, and certainly we're viewing this as that precursor to November. So everything is working really well now. So we anticipate and hope that it'll be the same as we get into the November election, and certainly more details to come on that as we get closer.
Great. Well, we will talk to you again before then, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Heather. You as well.
Bye. I'm talking to Greg Federspiel, the Town Administrator for Manchester by the Sea. We are talking on Monday, August 24th, the day after the first weekend of early in-person voting for the state primary election. Greg, how is the town managing early voting and processing mail-in ballots?
Yeah, it's gone pretty smoothly. Mail-in ballots have been very heavy. We have received over 1,000, maybe close to 1,500 now, which is over a third of all of our voters asking to vote by mail. So I expect that number to keep climbing. Early voting was pretty slow this weekend. Maybe 50 or so people all told. But nonetheless, that's 50 people served, so that's a good thing.
Right. That's amazing, that high percentage of mail-in ballots. It just speaks to how concerned people are. And have you had any concerns about this election going into it?
No, not really. There's a lot of consternation maybe nationally, but I'm pretty confident that our system is a good one. I think Massachusetts in general does quite well. I'm not worried about mail-in votes. I think we will be able to handle them as long as they get to us. That is the one concern. But people can drop them off in a drop box as well, which is something I would encourage people to do. There's a drop box right behind Town Hall, and they can swing by and drop their ballots in that instead of putting it in the mail. So that's a good way to just avoid that concern about delays of the mail.
And how about poll workers? Have you had any problems staffing poll workers? I realize it was a slow weekend, but how about election day?
Yeah, so we're in good shape. There were, a few folks who have been stalwarts and doing it for year after year and declined to do it because of the virus and concerns of health. Um, but we've been able to find others to substitute. So fortunately, we are in good shape, and we're ready for election day itself as well.
And just to be clear, early voting is where, and voting on election day is where?
Sure. So early voting is here at Town Hall the rest of this week, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 5, and then till 6:30 on Thursday. And then election day, primary day, September 1st, is at the high school in the cafeteria. And that's from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So those are the two opportunities to vote in person. And then, of course, mail-in ballots, the last day to request it is this Wednesday, and they all need to be in our hands on the 1st.
You know, Greg, I'm going to ask you this question. Some people have been concerned, or there's been some confusion about mail-in ballot applications. If you applied for a mail-in ballot for the state election, will you need to apply all over again for the November election?
So it depends how you filled out the request. So the request had three options. You request just the primary, just the general in November, or both. And if you checked off the both box, then you're good, and we'll be mailing out ballots not only for the primary, but also for the general election in November.
Okay, so you won't have to reapply. That's great.
You don't have to reapply if you checked off that both box.
Right. Okay, great. And how do you feel about is this election a good rehearsal for November?
Yes, no, I think it is. Absolutely. So this obviously is the first time we've done the large amount of mail-ins. We've always had absentee ballots, which is similar. But this is obviously much more universal and being used by a wider group of people. So it allows us to make sure we have enough staff to process mailing things out and process them when they come in. So yes, it is a good dry run well, it's not a dry run, but it's a good run to make sure we're well positioned for the general election, which will be bigger. There'll be more people voting traditionally, certainly in the general than in the primary.
What is the average turnout for a general election in Manchester by the Sea?
Oh, for presidential, it's quite high. We are in the 70 to 80, maybe a little higher than 80% in a presidential election. So I'm always glad to see that. So that's good. I'm impressed with that, and that's a good turnout.
Great. Anything you need the citizens of Manchester by the Sea to know about voting in either the state primary or coming up in November?
Well, just to encourage people to take advantage of their right to vote. It's, I think, a critical civic duty, and I'd certainly encourage people to do it. I think we have multiple avenues so that people can feel safe, and even day of voting, I think people can feel confident that they can do that without feeling they're putting their health at risk. There'll be good social distancing. There'll be hand sanitizers everywhere and people wearing masks. So I think people can feel good that they can vote and they have multiple options for doing so.
Great. Well, thank you for talking to us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.